Squeeze the time.
So the next thing we want to give you an update on, in EALI Phase 1, we did an Eden area community profile. And we did that because a lot of people don't recognize and don't know where the unincorporated areas of Alameda County are. You know, before I was the county supervisor, I knew of Castro Valley and San Lorenzo because they're freeway signs. But when somebody said Fairview, I said, where the hell is Fairview? What's up Fairview? Ashland, is that Ashland, Oregon? And Cherryland, where is Cherryland? So we did a community profile. That's one thing. We worked, with Seth when I became county supervisor. Wanted to make sure we made that there was a there. We wanted people to know the importance of the unincorporated communities, the value of the unincorporated communities, make the unincorporated communities proud, unified. Because if it were a city, the unincorporated communities would be the fourth largest city in the county. Only Oakland, Fremont, and Hayward would be larger. So the unincorporated communities, it's a significant population of people that are doing a lot of good work and living out here. So the profile helps us to do that. So we did a profile with 2,000 census data for EALI Phase 1. Then with census data from 2010, we're now able to do an updated profile for EALI Phase 2. So we'll now have a preview of the profile for EALI Phase 2 for the unincorporated community. So we'll bring up representatives from the Urban Strategies Council to do that.
Hi, my name is John Garvey, and I'm a research associate at the Urban Strategy. The singing guy was awesome. I want to sing. And I was like, man, I'm nervous to present, but then that guy walked up here and sang a song. And it's all okay. So I'm a research associate at the Urban Strategies Council, and we also have our director of research, Steve Spiker, here today, and we've set up a table in the back corner with the community profile, the update to the community profile that we wrote. So you can come back there and browse through the information, ask us any questions you might have. We have a couple maps up if you're interested. I love maps, so I'm a map geek and bring them. And really what I want to go through, I don't know how much time we have on the agenda if we're going to do questions, is I just wanted to talk a little bit about the community profile, sort of how we put it together, some of the thinking that we had going into it. Also take a look at the sections, how we broke things out, and then take a look at these three key themes that course their way throughout every section that best describe the information that's happening. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Urban Strategies Council, but I'll give us a brief plug. We're a nonprofit that's been in Oakland for about 25 years. We're a social impact organization that uses things like research and policy change, collaboration and innovation to achieve our goals around equity and social justice. We have program areas that look at economic opportunity because we need economic opportunity to lift people out of poverty. We need an excellent education system for them to avail themselves of those opportunities. And then we need to handle the public safety issue, which trumps all issues. None of those things can happen until public safety is resolved. So before going into the sections, I just want to look at these three themes. I've presented these initial findings, I've presented twice now, and the more and more I look at the data, the more and more these three themes are reinforced, not only to help us understand sort of the past, looking at the data, the changing data from 1990 on, but also give us a sense of the direction it might be going into the future. And the first is growth. The Bay Area is growing. Alameda County is growing in terms of population, and the Eden area is growing as well. In fact, the Eden area is growing slightly faster, at a faster rate than the county as a whole. So since 1990, there's 26,000 more residents in the Eden area than there were since 1990. To give you a scale of that, that's larger than San Lorenzo. So an entire San Lorenzo has been added to the Eden area's population. This means increased housing units. We need to build housing. Expansion of public infrastructure, increased economic activity. Across all of the different trends, this growth is pushing things forward. One thing that's also changing is diversity. This area is becoming increasingly, again, like the Bay Area, it's becoming increasingly diverse. Not only ethnically and racially, but also sort of in the composition of our families and our household structures and in the types of economic activity that we're doing. And then finally, the disparity. And this is yet again something that's happening, and we hear this federally. The differences between places is becoming more extreme, whether it be in income or lived experiences or health outcomes or your income levels. That's all changing and it's all expanding. So one person's experience is not another person's experience in a different neighborhood. That's an obvious statement. And I just tack on to that, Eden area really defies the average. I look at average numbers for the Eden area, but that masks quite a bit of the complexity that you have between the 5 different communities that I'm using to look at the Eden area. So I'd like to start with this slide here. I've lost my way. So this is just, it was a really interesting project to think about how to describe a place. And this is a data level view. So this is a high level view using data to try to describe a place. So it doesn't describe any particular person's experience or your particular view of things. And it uses data. So this is the contextual information that you put your storage and your narrative upon. So the first thing I was interested in was demographics. It's the people that live here. There's 130,000 plus people that live within this 25 square mile area. What are these people like? You know, as much as we can discern from data. The second part was, where do they live? How many buildings? What's the built environment like that supports these people's lives? The third part was health and safety. And this is like this general category that I'm using is, what's the experience of people? I sort of took this big tent approach to health and safety, where it's not only the outcomes that we see in public health departments like emergency room visits, but it's also things like access to parks, experiences of violent crime, your location relative to other hazards, things like interstates. So it's this big view on like what's happening, what's our experiences. So we have people, we have buildings in place, and then we have experience. And the final thing is economic and employment. What do people here do for a living? What does this area generate? What's its economic output? And how does it avail itself or fit within this larger regional economy that it participates within? So this was my thinking just going into it, and these are the 4 sections that I used. So then I put in this first side here because this really is the basis for change. Since 2000, there's 8,000 new residents in the Eden area. Like I said before, since 1990, there's 26,000. But these are not just generic people units, you know, and it's not equal. So not all places grow equally within the Eden area. So you can see it in the chart up here that you have 859 more school-age children. This gives us an indication of the types of services that need to be provided. You can also see that we have less senior-age residents. So again, while we're growing, different groups are growing at different rates. You can see the majority of people are working-age residents. But that challenges us then to find employment. Because we have more working-age residents, we have 3,900 more people filing for unemployment. Because we have 8,000 more people, and we live in, just a caveat, the time 2010 is a rough time to look at data. We all know the economic crisis. But we can see that we have 3,800 more people filing, living in poverty. You know, we have 2,000 more kids getting free and reduced price lunches through our school district. We built 2,300 new housing units. So this is the pusher of change, in my opinion. So this is my editorial on it. But so now I just kind of want to look at diversity in a bit, because this is the most predominant demographic feature that's happening. The area is just becoming increasingly diverse. For the first time, the majority of people identified to the census as people of color. The drivers of this change are the more than 20,000 new residents who identify to the census as Asian or Hispanic and Latino. Conversely, you see a significant drop. A quarter of residents who identify as white have left the area. Now this is between 2000 and 2010. So we see these two twin forces. These numbers, like, that's 16,000 people, so that's Cherryland size amount of people leaving the area. What's interesting about the Eden area that's different than the county, you can see that, so in this graph, the light blue bar is the county, the dark blue bar is Eden area. You can see that the Eden area, this change is happening more rapidly in almost every group. And another thing that's different about the Eden area is, unlike the county where you see a decreasing amount of African American or black residents, Eden area is actually growing in that category, and that's one of the few communities in the Bay Area that's happening. And there's also this, and this is just to me interesting, this category of some other race. And it's like a census catch-all for anyone who doesn't identify with the other races. I don't know what race you are at that moment. But you can see countywide, less people choose that course when they identify themselves. That means they're more positive about identifying themselves into those census categories. But in the Eden area, you've seen a 57% increase in that. So to me, that shows that there's more diversity than we can capture at the census level. You know, that the data is not telling us even the full story. So even these numbers that are showing this increased diversification of the residents, I think fall short because of that category. Another part of diversity is age. The Bay Area is aging rapidly, and this is in part due to the baby boom generation pushing its way up into the 60s. But again, this masks some of the complexity that we see within the Eden area. So this is a typical age pyramid composition. So like these are the age groups going up the side. The blue for males, the red for females, just the counts. And these are the communities like Ashland and Cherry Lake. And you can see here that there's lots of young adults in the low 30s. Can you say low 30s for age? They scored in the low 30s. And then you see a lot of children. So you see the growing need and demand that's coming this direction, as these kids are all preschool age children under the age of 5. If we switch the slide, this is compared to a more typical age pyramid that we see for the Bay Area as a whole. And this is Castro Valley. And there you can see the baby boom generation bulging its way upward. You can also see that the kids are leaving the school age, this 15 to 19 category. And you can see that they're not being replaced by younger kids. So this change in demographics is also evident in age structure and sort of informs us on what sort of needs we're going to have moving into the future. You can switch it. So then on family and households, and I'm picking some of these examples just to highlight some pieces of data, but also show you some of the elements that you'll find in the report. We can see here that there's a great disparity in median income between the different places in our community. Again, the lived experience. Anyone who has a red arrow means that their median income is less than the county's median income of $70,000. So that means that in Ashland, 50% of the people live below $48,000 a year. Some studies indicate the poverty level is around $28,000 for a family of 4. But studies indicate that in the Bay Area, you need at least $60,000 to meet self-sufficiency. So that means that 50% of the people who live in Ashland don't meet that threshold if they're a family of 4. You can see also, though, that there's areas of good wealth, of high wealth, that exceed that total, too. Further, we have this household size. And this is an artifact of the times that we live in. We had the foreclosure crisis. We've added 8,000 new residents, but we haven't kept pace with the building. So there's not enough housing units. Also with the foreclosure, there's not enough available housing units to house these people, so we see a jump in household sizes in the Eden area. And in fact, San Lorenzo had the highest jump of any community in Alameda County. So this is kind of that story of what happens when you get foreclosed upon, where generally you move in with a relative. And this is sort of an artifact of that. But thanks to the county, and I saw Tim Dupuy walk through, they've opened up a lot of data sets that enable us to kind of drill down a little bit further into this question of disparity. So this is enrollment into social services. Things like Medi-Cal and CalWorks, CalFresh, the food stamp program. And I just picked 2 census tracts out to show you the differences between places. So the census tract's about 2,000 people. And you can see on the one on the left, 23 children are on Medi-Cal. The census tract on the right has 1,200 children on Medi-Cal. So this gives us this idea of the incredible differences between places. You know, that number is 50 times higher. This is like on CalFresh, I was reading in the news, there's 5 children who get food stamps essentially, or SNAP benefits, compared to 768 in this other neighborhood. I mean, I was reading in the news that they just reduced the benefit for CalFresh. So these are the challenges, I think, and this is sort of, again, the diversity that we have within this area that you're planning for, that you've done this process for. I put this one in here because it's an example of, it's a health example, but it's also a way that you can overlay particular pieces of information. We just heard that Ashland and Cherryland have the highest mortality rates in the county. Ashland has very high rates of emergency department visits for asthma. Asthma studies have shown that if you live within a 750-foot buffer of an interstate, you're at more risk for emergency department visits due to asthma-related issues. You can see that the majority of Ashland, or much of Ashland, sits within these buffer zones. And to compound that map on the right, those blue areas, if you can see it, those are the areas in the Eden area that are the most dense. And if I added another map, those are the areas where there's the most count of children in the Eden area. So you begin to compile these factors together to get this understanding of health, this place-based notion of health that they were speaking of. We could take this map, and actually I've seen it on name tags, which is pretty cool, but we can again see this is public safety, and again this is the county opened up the sheriff's data sets. So now we have reported crimes that the sheriff takes in, and we can map these and see where they're happening. And you can see kind of on the map, these hot red areas are where violent crime rates are highest. And in places like Ashland, you have robbery rates at 4.83 per 1,000 residents. This is compared to 0.4 in Fairview. So this is 10 times higher. It's bad being a researcher and not being able to do math on the spot. But if we took this same map and just go back a slide, we can begin to layer that on too. So now we have areas of health impact zones, of high population density, with the highest counts of our children, on top of areas that have really violent crime rates. So these are the challenges. These are also the most diverse neighborhoods, by the way. So as you do programming and as you think about what you need to do to confront some of these issues in your communities, these are all the factors that come to play in people's lives. So if you can flip 2 now. And finally, for economics, essentially the Eden area is a bedroom community, which means that a lot of people live here, but generally those people don't work here. So I just took one example of Castro Valley. And you can see in Castro Valley, of the some 25,000 workers or so that you have here, only 2,000 stay in Castro Valley for their work. At the same time, 23,000 leave the area for employment. So this is just fleshing out this idea of being a bedroom community, but it also, Castro Valley is the most job-rich area in the Eden area. So these numbers are worse if you look at the other communities. And this is, again, challenges to our infrastructure, challenges to our public transportation, the never-ending I-238 expansion, stuff like that. And if you could flip one more, I just want to end, and this is a sobering note. These are the latest job projections from the California Department of Job Projections. And these are the top 10 growth jobs in the next 10 years. 5 of these jobs are in software and technology industries, and they have a median income of about $100,000 a year. The other 5 are in food service industries that have a median income of $20,000 a year. So we talk about this growing disparity, and we think about a future. So we know that if you make $100,000, you're pushing the cost of living up in the area. So either we provide affordable housing and figure out a way that somebody who makes $20,000 can live here, or we expand and improve our transportation and infrastructure. But this is just a basic projection of this scary future that's happening where we see our economy, the destruction of the middle class, and you see the haves and the have-nots trying to live in the same spaces. And I say these are the challenges that we'll face going forward, and you'll continue to face in phase 3, the sequel, or 4, sequel squared. So we have a table back there. Please come up, ask any questions you want, flip through the profile. I'm sorry I'm not feeling well, so I'm a little disjointed, and I hope you got some of the gist of what I'm saying. But please come back. We're back in the very far front.
All right, thank you. And you can visit their table, and the final profile will be available the first part of the year, 2014. It'll be available, right now it's over 100 pages, draft form, but it'll be available in hard copy around the first of the year, as well as you'll be able to download it additionally. So, but right now it's still in draft form, the profile for the Eden area. We've been told that some people have already voted. People are double parking. Some people voted absentee who qualified to vote absentee. So I appreciate the fact that many of you are holding off on voting just yet until you see and hear everything. But we know that some people have voted absentee, and some people have come today and voted and dropped off their ballots and had to leave because of parking constraints. My hope is that if there is an EALI Phase 3 in 2019, 2020, Lord willing, and we're here, we'll possibly be at the Charrette Community Center for that one, because that should be able to accommodate about 400 people at the Charrette Community Center. And there's plenty of there'll be plenty of parking there, and it's right next to the Mega States. So, I mean, it's amazing. We've outgrown your church, Pastor.